Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. So the Baltimore Ravens picked up Odafe Oweh's fifth-year option, and we also got some contract details on Rashod Bateman's extension, so we'll dive into both of those topics. Let's start with Odafe Oweh. They picked up his fifth-year option, so he's going to be here for another 2 years, obviously this season, and then now that fifth year. That fifth-year option's cap hit is $13.25 million. I feel like this is a good move. Obviously, he's battled a couple injuries here recently, and his sack production hasn't been super high, but we see the explosiveness, we see the near sacks, which usually eventually leads to sacks. I feel like if he's on the field consistently through this year and next year, that he's going to break out, whether that be this season or next season or both. I feel like he's right there. He has all the athletic tools to break out. He's getting better and better each year. He just was battling some injuries last year, so he wasn't consistently there. But he's got a bright future. The Ravens pass rush now, I feel like, has a bright future. And getting Odafe for another 2 years is just a smart move, especially if he does break out. Now you have him for $13 million instead of trying to deal with the free agent market. The strategy here is they're expecting a breakout from Odafe Oweh, and they're trying to get good value on him for these next 2 seasons. After that, he's probably going to end up being a free agent, especially if he breaks out and goes off. I feel like he might get a huge contract somewhere else, like a Patrick Queen type situation, or we end up keeping him like a Matabike situation. I don't know, with all the young pass rushers that we have behind him, I'm not sure if he's in the long-term plans after these 2 years. I guess it really just depends on what his production is like over these next 2 years. If he's really balling and is like one of the best pass rushers in the game, then obviously they're going to find a way to get a deal done long-term. He's going to be alongside his friend David Ojabo. Hopefully he has a healthy season as well. I'd like to see what that pass rush duo looks like. They just have not been on the field together. David Ojabo has barely been on the field at all. But I love their potential. I love their upside. I just got to see it play out on the field. So I'm excited that we got Odafe for another 2 years. I feel like it is good value. Unless he's hurt or not performing well, then that fifth-year option might be too much. But I don't think that that's a crazy number to have a really, really solid pass rusher out there. $13 million, it's not breaking the bank. If he's a free agent after a breakout season, he's going to get $20 million. So I think this is good value, way to get ahead of the curve. They're expecting a breakout, and he's kind of the veteran of the group now. I know we got Kyle Van Noy, who's like the super vet, but Oweh is the oldest, most experienced pass rusher outside of that. It's David Ojabo and Tavius Robinson and Adisa Isaac that we just drafted, and those guys are really young behind them. So this is Odafe Oweh's time these next 2 years to just go off. He needs to break out, and he's fighting for a bigger long-term deal, whether it be in Baltimore or somewhere else. But these next 2 years are crucial. I'm expecting his production to increase. I'm expecting him to have the best years that he's had in his career, at least from a sack number standpoint. But I feel like this is a smart move to get ahead of the curve, especially since we didn't pick up Rashod Bateman's fifth-year option, which, come to find out, he wasn't even eligible. There's a rule in the CBA, and I'll read it. A player shall not receive an accrued season for any league year in which the player is under contract to a club in which he failed to report to the club's preseason training camp on that player's mandatory reporting date. So I believe he reported 2 days late last year because he was dealing with the foot injury. He knew he wasn't going to play anyway, and I guess his agent suggested that he could show up late, and he then fired his agent because that's bad information, and it eliminated his ability to even have a fifth-year option this season. So he was going to be a restricted free agent, and the Ravens kind of controlled his rights anyway. Bateman kind of got screwed there by his agent, in my opinion. I mean, he should be the one looking out for the player and delivering that information like, hey, make sure you show up on time, because if you're missing mandatory camp, you can't have a fifth-year option, and you pretty much just lost all leverage. So I'm sure the Ravens were aware of this. They kind of did him a solid to get him 3-year security rather than just saying like, hey, you're a restricted free agent. We don't have to pick up the fifth-year option. Go play this year and prove that you're even worth anything. They just got ahead of the curve once again, locked him up on a very team-friendly contract. He earns a base value of $15.25 million over the next 3 seasons and has an additional escalator for 2026 of $1.5 million that brings the max value of the deal to $16.75 million over these next 3 years. So, I mean, $5-6 million a year. Incredible value for a guy like Bateman, who they're also projecting is going to break out like Odafe Oweh. But little did I know, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't know, the Ravens didn't even have a chance to consider Bateman's fifth-year option, which they probably preferred because that would have been a lot more expensive. His fifth-year option alone was $14 million. We got him for $15 to $16 million over the next 3 years. So very team-friendly deal. Bateman did get kind of screwed in that situation. I think that that's just terrible agent work, and he has since got a new agency. I think he's working with Rock Nation now, so I'm sure he learned from that experience. But now he's got 3 years security. I know it's probably not the numbers he wants, but if he balls out over these 3 years, he's going to get a payday. You know, whether the Ravens keep him around or whether he gets a payday somewhere else, he has the ability to earn that. I think he's going to be a focal point in this offense. He's probably going to be wide receiver 2 next to Zay moving forward. So he's got all the opportunity in the world to ball out, get that next deal. Obviously not an ideal situation at all to lose his leverage like that, but it is what it is at this point. I feel bad for him, but I'm happy that he's got security, and I'm happy that the Ravens got a team-friendly deal for a receiver that, in my opinion, is worth well more than $5 million per season. I think that that's a steal of a contract, and the Ravens are sitting pretty good. We'll see how Odafe Oweh and Rashod Bateman's game evolves over these next 2 to 3 years. I'm just happy that they're both on the team, and I think the Ravens made smart moves by getting Bateman locked up for very cheap, and then also picking up Odafe Oweh's fifth-year option for $13 million. So they're kind of ahead of the curve in case he does break out. They're not really tied to pay him big bucks after this year. They can kind of keep him on the roster for 2 years, let him ball out, and then deal with free agency 2 years down the line. So we got Rashod Bateman, we got Odafe Oweh locked up for the next 2 seasons at least. I'm happy about it. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have picked up Oweh's fifth-year option? Obviously, they couldn't have picked up Bateman, so that's not even a discussion anymore, but I'm sure you're happy with that deal. But let me know what your thoughts on all this is in the comments. As always, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.